Why is money such a taboo subject? I woke up this morning asking myself, why is it that something that controls so much of our thoughts and actions so frowned upon to be brought up in conversation? I believe it's something that we all need to discuss more often, not from a standpoint of who has the most money, but how we should be using our money to improve our lives, to use as a tool so that we can go out in the world and accomplish the goals that we want. I believe that money gets a bad name from the simple fact of the media that we watch, where people who have a lot of money are often vilified. They usually are portrayed as being morally bankrupt or having some evil agenda or plot to take over the world. Think anything from the Batman comic series. Usually people who have a lot of money are up to no good. Now, I'm not saying that people should be hoarding so much money that they ignore the ills that go on in the world. But I do believe that we all need to be able to learn to make more money from the standpoint of improving our lives, making our time more accessible to us. Because right now we all grow up in a system where we're taught to trade all of our valuable time for money. And we all look at these memes, whether it be on Pinterest, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, any social media platform, where it says poor people value things, rich people value skills, and wealthy people value time. What I want to know is, how do I position myself in a way or in a place where I can value my time? I believe that's what we all wonder at the end of the day. I've spent years on social media, online, searching, researching, trying to find ways to reclaim more of my time. I have found ways to reclaim a lot of my time. And I don't know whether it's the programming or whether it's just the natural order of things, but I've found that when I have a lot of free time, I want to spend more time working. I don't want to be an idle millionaire, a rich guy who just goes around and plays golf all day, every day. That's not really where I see myself in the future. It's not the best use of my time or ability. I don't want to work in a cubicle, in a corporate setting for 40 years, putting money away into my 401k so that I can then hopefully get to retire. And when I retire, I get to live on a beach house or in a cabin in the mountains and do nothing. Whatever money that I make will probably be spent in the manner that it always has been. If I have excess money, I will look to spend my money to buy tools that will hopefully allow me to make more money. That's the way it's always been. And I believe for as long as I live, that's just the way it's always going to be. In fact, I see myself making attempts at doing something creative just like this, but on another level, where I'm either filming content or I'm making movies, making art, starting businesses, as long as I live. A lot of people say in your old age, you're not going to always want to work. And I understand you don't want to be at the lowest level of work. You don't want to trade your time for money, laboring for your entire life. But there's work that needs to be done, and there's different levels of work. And as I progress through life, through each decade. I've done the work I needed to do in my 20s. I'm almost complete with the work that I needed to do in my 30s. So my 40s, 50s, and 60s, I need to be working on a whole nother level. But the key is that I do intend to work in some capacity. Whether that work be mentoring, whether that work be leading, speaking, creating, whatever it is, I do intend to work. But the work will be done on my terms. And I understand that if I am going to do work on my terms, it will require money. So I will, while I am working on those quote unquote lower levels, I will need to be able to make the best use of the money that I do earn, invest it properly into things that will yield me a return to free up more of my time so that I can do the things that I envision in my head, if that makes any sense. For most of us, we're only taught to work on one level. We're only taught to follow the lead of someone else who is positioned as a manager or a CEO. And we wake up every day and kiss the wife and kids goodbye, send them off on their way in doing whatever they have to do, whether that be school or working jobs of their own. And we devote all of our best amount of time in our waking hours to someone else. Honestly, based on my experience and from what I've seen, I want to flip that on its head. I want to be able to work when I feel like working, which I'm not afraid of putting myself in that position because I'm not a lazy person. But it's going to take a real understanding of how money works in order to be able to make that happen. And I understand that. Often we're afraid to speak of these things or to express these things out loud because we've been taught that any discussion surrounding or involving money is just too personal to speak of. And if many of the other things that used to be too personal to speak of in public have turned the opposite way. For instance, for example, if at one time who your political affiliation used to be was personal, you didn't discuss who you were going to vote for at one point in time in the world. I don't know if many of you remember those days, but yes, there was a time where you kept your political affiliations under your hat. There was a time when you kept the goings on in your household, your love life, etc., things like that. You kept that under your hat, close to the vest. Those two things have kind of gone out of the window. We wear our hearts on our sleeves in so many ways. But I feel like one of the categories of privacy that we've still held on and we've kind of gate kept from the general public is just, how do you earn a comfortable living? How do you earn a wage high enough to where you can free up some of your most valuable asset, and that's your time? How do you make money work for you to where you can have time to pursue those creative goals that you have? Those are the things that I want to speak about. But those are the things that are still considered the most taboo. You know, one of the biggest things that happened to me in my life that made me throw that whole mindset out of the window, and it happened by accident, was when I worked for a company through a temp agency. And there was another guy there who I had become acquainted with. And we came in through the same temp agency. We came in at the same time. And for whatever reason, he expressed that he would be making a certain amount of money on his check. Now, me, I'm pretty decent with numbers. And the number that he gave me didn't quite compute. It didn't add up. I had already calculated what my check would be, what I was anticipating. And for whatever reason, his check was higher. I couldn't figure out why. And so I asked him some probing questions, so to speak. But I didn't want to make it so obvious. Even though in hindsight it was pretty obvious, because I just straight up asked him, how are you making that much? Didn't you only work this amount of hours? And that's where he told me what the variable was, is that he was making, I think it was at the time, 25 cents more than I was per hour. And so his check was slightly higher. But being in the position that we were in, every cent counted. And it was at that point that I discovered, or that I figured out, that a lot of times these vows of secrecy are just put in place so that people can be manipulated and so that people can be used. People can be taken advantage of. And at that point, in that moment, I realized that I had been and would continue to be taken advantage of if I didn't ask questions. As I've grown older, I realized that people want to take advantage of the young. And at some point, I do believe that we all have to cut our teeth, pay our dues, eat our crow, whatever you want to say, early on in our careers. But we also have to understand that there are other levels. And if I had not found out in that moment when I was so young that I was being taken advantage of at that time, I probably would be in the mindset of staying in that same position to this day. And so how do you go about learning what your worth is in this world if the conversations that are surrounding money are so taboo? Well, the first thing is, in my humble opinion, we all have to be unafraid and unapologetic about investigating the mechanisms and the ways we make money and everything that pertains to that as it pertains to us in our lives. This is your livelihood. This is your life force that you're trading in when you go to a job. So it's best for you to understand what a person in your position should be making. And it's best that you understand whether you are making a competitive wage or are you being shortchanged. You can't be afraid to ask those questions. Secondly, you need to ask yourself, am I working in a position where I am developing skills that I could utilize for myself? Now, obviously, utilizing the skills for yourself can be risky. We all know that. People have gone out and attempted to start businesses and have failed. It happens every day. But if you can have the dedication to get up, clock in for someone else on a daily basis, then you should have the dedication to do those things for yourself. Now, I can attest from firsthand experience that it is very difficult, and I cannot fathom why this is the case, but it is very difficult for us to show up for ourselves. For some reason, it's like a chip that's put in everybody's brain to where we can get up, we can show up, we can work hard when it comes to doing it for someone else. But when it comes to doing it for ourselves, we tend to let ourselves down. I don't know if we all need a rest period or if there's just something that makes us not believe in our own potential. But take the skills that you learn from a job, apply it to a situation where you can extract the greatest benefit from it. And make sure that you show up for yourself like you would for someone else. I don't know why it has taken me so long to arrive at this thought process. I mean, even with this YouTube channel, I've had so much free time. I've actually developed a little bit of momentum on a few occasions, and I would just let it fall by the wayside. And it would be for various reasons. I do have a full-time job that I work extremely hard at. But this could be my full-time job if I took it seriously. If I showed up every day like I do for my full-time job. And the great thing is that I'm in a position at this very moment where I can say that things are going extremely well in my full-time job. But I would like to add something else, another layer that will open up another chamber, another door towards the freedom that I've always wanted. Again, and in fear of repeating myself and rambling, I will say that I understand that time is the most valuable asset. But in order for you to reclaim your time, it's necessary that we understand money. And we can never really understand money, in my opinion, if we keep treating it like it's this taboo situation that is unmentionable. On this channel, I don't want my channel to revolve around money. I don't want my audience to believe that I'm one of these people who worships money, because people will be quick to tell you that money is the root of all evil. Whereas I believe the quote is actually that the love of money is the root of all evil. And I interpret that to mean that you're a person who puts money above everything, the pursuit of it above everything. Whereas I want to look at money for what it is, as a tool to improve my life and to hopefully reclaim the time that I'm missing. I don't know. We'll see how this goes from here on out. But I'm going to end this situation, this video. I'm going to let you guys go. And I will talk to you and see you in the next video.